This is the Post-Budget 2016 series. I'm Zunaira Saieed together with my co-host Wong Wei-Shen. Today, Prime Minister Dato Sri Najib Razak has already tabled the budget in the Parliament, and we have a panel of 4 tax experts who are going to share with us their views on where the country is heading for next year in reflection of this budget. We have here with us is Dr. Virendrajit Singh from Tax in Malaysia, Chi Pepe from Deloitte Malaysia, and Nicholas Christ from KPMG Malaysia, and Lavindran Sundargasu from PwC Tax Services Malaysia. Now, Dr. Virendrajit Singh, the GST collection is expected to be 39 billion. Is it achievable for next year?
I think it is. 39 billion is a much higher figure than what we expected. It was originally anticipated to be 31 billion for a whole year. So I think this is promising. That it should be achievable, but the important point is really about effective administration. The one thing to note is that there are more products that have been added to the zero rated list as well. So how that will impact on the net collection has left to be seen. But overall, I guess 39 billion itself is very encouraging.
Do you think the GST rates will go up next year?
I think if you look at in comparison with the GST or VAT introduced by other countries, it's a matter of time that the rate will move up. The question is when and how long. So I think, yes, it will.
It will move up to what percentage in your opinion?
Well, I think, again, if you look at the reflection of other countries, you could move up in a 1 percentage point or 2 percentage point, depending on the economic condition.
Yeah. Right. Well, Nicholas Chris, what kind of preventive measures can be implemented to ensure that the GST revenue will be spent wisely in terms of transparency issues?
Well, I suppose the government at the end, this time next year, will have to give an account of its spending over the last 12 months. And I think that would be quite a useful indication.
What kind of measures do you think they can take?
No, I think to be very specific, to look at GST revenue and how it is being spent, it's asking for too much, because there's no way specific revenue that's collected is targeted to be spent in a specific way. I think we realize that it goes into the pool, and the pool in terms of the total revenue, and then it's given out by various allocations. What we should be obviously looking at is all the various spending that the government does by the various ministries, various allocations, various grants. I think what we should be hoping for is that there's value-based spending, and there is an accountability as to the results that come out from all this spending, and was the spending worth it before an extension is made of that same grant or spending or whatever allocations that are made. I think that's the best we can hope for in terms of asking for accountability and transparency.
I think I would echo Dr. Virendrajit Singh. I guess you cannot move to the next step without knowing what you have done well, what are the areas that you need to improve, unless and until that is actually a cross-check towards what you have done. I guess you will not be able to have a very transparent and effective.
Right, Lavindran, how do you think the revenue from GST can be spent?
Okay, that depends on what the government wants to do in terms of its future plans, right? So of course we are now under the 11 Malaysia plan. So I think there's quite a structured program in terms of investment for the next couple of years pertaining to the 11 Malaysian program. So obviously that is going to be a focus of how we're going to spend whatever we collect for GST. Oil revenues are down, right? And that's quite clearly stated. Everybody is aware of it. And we need to compensate some of that, and that will also come from GST. So I think these two areas will be the way that the government is going to spend whatever we collect from GST.
Is GST enough, most importantly?
Again, it's a balance issue, right? Because if you say it's not enough, does it mean that we're going to increase rates? Which is possible. Governments around the world have done it before. If there's not enough revenue, they could increase it. But you have to balance it in terms of, does it dampen growth, right? So it's not to say that it's just a matter of increasing it, but there's a flip side to the coin as to whether it'll affect growth or not. So that's something that they have to measure. And also, I think, just to add that one last point is that the fiscal deficit is going down. So I suppose that's a good thing for the country, and that also reflects back, or that touches on our rating status of the country. And because as our rating improves, I think our debt rates, how much of interest we're going to pay, what kind of exposure that we have on the country is going to reduce. So that should help companies as well.
You must remember that 21 billion additional is expected compared to what we used to collect. So that's not a bad sum. And the issue really is, in the end of the day, petroleum revenues are going down and dividends from Petronas is going down. And so I think you may end up GST balancing that. So in the end of the day, will the nation gain net? It may not gain anything substantially extra because it's making up the gap, which we didn't expect will happen. And so by eventually when oil prices recover, then I think Petronas will be able to pay the dividends, then it really boosts the overall growth approach that the government has.
Okay, coming to tax reliefs, the increase in tax reliefs such as parental care, childcare, did you expect this, and how meaningful is this for taxpayers?
I guess this is something which is very close to my heart. I think if you look at that, I guess all of us are pretty surprised to the extent of reliefs that they have given this year. If you look at last year's budget, yes, there are certain reliefs, but it's basically a relief to increase from 5,000 to 6,000, very minor. And this year, yes, we're pretty surprised with a lot of reliefs. And I guess if you look at the additional tax relief, which is 1,005 given for both mother and father, I think it is a step towards the government to encourage parental care. I guess for those working groups, yes, we are making an earning, but let's not forget that those are the elderlies with needs care, and some of them may not even require to go to the old folks home and such. So these are the type of a category of people that we need to look at, and it's good because it fosters family values.
Okay, and what is the difference in a definition for the BE40 and the new M40 segment? And how would you say that the current reliefs and tax structure impacts those who pay or don't pay taxes? Lavindran?
The reliefs currently that has been looked at in the current budget focuses on areas of health and education broadly, and that also seems to be the thrust of the budget proposals that has been put out, because I think they're looking at things like trying to reduce the cost of living, etc. But they don't want to put it out on everything, but only in relation to certain specific areas. So education, medical, those two are, sort of bread and butter issues, which is what has been pointed out in the press and all that quite recently. So coming back to that point about M40 and B40, those categories of people, particularly on the B40 are the people within the category below 3,000 per month. Their earning capacity is below 3,000 per month. Now, given the fact that they don't really pay taxes, the issue is these reliefs really are not really effective on them, right? The people within the M40 category is between, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 3,000 to 8,000. That's their range of their income earning capacity. To some extent, these reliefs will affect them, and I would imagine if you ask anybody, on the street, if there's any money that they can save in this day and age, I'm sure they'll be happy about it. So I think that would augur well with the public in that regard.
But Dr. Ranjit Singh, what do you think of the increase in tax rates of people earning more than 1 million ringgit to 28%?
Yeah, the increase was actually for those who earn more than 600,000 as well, but it's slightly lower, 21%. And then those who earn above 1 million, you hit 28%. Now, that's supposed to be super rich. I mean, many countries don't call them the super rich. We apparently have chosen to do that. But the point here was, this is surprising. I mean, this is something we've never, in fact, we didn't envisage. Although there are lessons in other countries where they've attempted to do this as well. So what I feel is quite worrying is, does this open the door to rates increasing in the future as well. And also remember that multinationals bear the taxes of their very top senior executives as well. So that is a cost to the multinationals. So in the end of the day, if taxes go up for these senior executives, the cost of the multinationals for running the business also goes up. And so we need to also bear that in mind. So all in all, I think it was a strange decision, but it also brings in some additional revenue. But you need to look at the long-term impact. And here we were talking about comparing with other countries. I mean, we like to compare with our neighbor down south and hope to achieve that rate, and it's all going downwards. But for us to go up and increase that rate so early before we even reach our 2020 milestone target.
But Nicholas, will it deter them from expansion, most importantly?
I'm not sure that this will deter people from expansion. I'm sure people will still go to work and will still expect to draw high salaries. I think, however, what's perhaps a little bit disconcerting is that we've seen dividend income recently becoming totally tax exempt. So economically, you could end up with a situation of somebody who derives most of their income from, say, salary, who's going to be paying tax at this 28%, whereas somebody who earns most of their income from dividends, having a corresponding similar amount of disposable income, would pay nothing because dividends are exempt.
And okay, Pepe, what do you think of the incentives for the business sector?
I guess generally the incentive for business sectors, we do not see that many incentive other than some of incentives like the toll operators and extension of another year of extension, and also the another extension on the reinvestment allowance. Apart from that, we do not see that much of a big incentive that's been announced of late.
Is this budget a best fit for in these challenging times?
The issue at the end of the day is the impact, right? And the impact appears minimal. But I think given the circumstances, given the revenue position, and the fact that you still have to spend, so it's a mildly expansionary budget because spending is still there, development expenditure is slightly up. So I think given the circumstances, this appears to be very suitable. And also, as mentioned earlier, the fiscal deficit is also projected to go down. So in that sense, it's a very good balancing act. So everything is about revenue or expenditure. That's all, right? You can only do these two things. You can reduce expenditure. You can, if your revenue has gone down, but our revenue is actually projected to still go up next year. Not as much as it used to in the past. So expenditure is still, you can still spend a little bit more, and they've done a little bit in terms of the development expenditure. So we are within the range, and 3.1% is the fiscal deficit for next year proposed. So we'll have to wait and see because it all depends on how things pan out next year. Remember, this is for next year, so at the end of next budget, we'll know whether we've reached that. So I think it's the best we could do under the circumstances.
All right, although it is a balancing budget, tax experts believe that we can sail through these tough tides, and we'll be bringing you more updates on this budget 2016. I'm Zunaira together with my co-host Wong Wei-Shen. Stay tuned with Star TV.